You know your Krispy Kreme story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You don't need that on this recording. All right, Chuck, close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and hold it. And let it go. Now just breathing comfortably with your eyes closed. Go ahead and feel your feet on the floor or whatever part of you is connected to something. Allow yourself to feel that connection. Allow yourself to feel centered and grounded. Allowing yourself to be right here, right now, as present as possible, so as to receive maximum benefit from this hour. Just following your breath through your body, just allowing yourself to be aware of what's going on in there. Noticing what you're feeling physically, what you're feeling emotionally. You're rating yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 feeling awesome, magnificent. Don't judge yourself harshly if the number's lower than you'd like it to be. Just allow yourself to be aware of where it's at and notice any thoughts, beliefs, or memories about why it couldn't or shouldn't be higher. Go ahead and imagine a full-length mirror. And looking in that mirror, I want you to see your ideal image of yourself, that man of God, grateful, being of service, making a difference around the world. And notice how you feel on a scale of 0 to 10 as to how much you are that person now, how much you believe yourself to be that person right now. And again, don't judge yourself harshly if the number is lower than you'd like it to be. Just allow yourself to be aware of what's there. Notice the thoughts, beliefs, and memories, maybe some of the old stories, things that have happened in the past that part of you might say, well, this is why I can't be that person. These things that were said to me, these things that happened to me. Just notice where you hold those in your body. Notice where you weigh yourself down with doubts or fears. Being curious rather than judgmental. Take a deep breath. Let it go. Open your eyes. Go ahead and start tapping. Let me know what came up during that.
And I had a question.
Yeah.
When you're doing a guided imagery, should I be tapping during that time or not?
You can if you like. It's not necessary.
Okay, I probably won't then.
Yeah.
Um, Now, ask the question again.
Scale is 0 to 10 in terms of being that man of God that your ideal self is, making the difference that you choose to make. 10 being, that's who I am today. That's who I'm being moment to moment. It's how I see myself. And to the extent that it's anything lower than that, just allowing yourself to be aware of where you hold on to that in your body.
It's funny because you were talking and I thought you were going to have me do just the opposite. And I started picturing, like for just a short time, the wonderful things that had happened in my life, like um, dispelling the idea that, because I've had a good life, but I've said I've not had a lot of those, high moments. But I've had plenty of them and more that are more, not long term kind of things, but I've had a lot of good moments. But anyway, as I think about people, by the way, did you get my video? I mean,
Your
my,
form?
yeah, my form.
Yes, have it right here in front of me.
Okay. Um, you know, I went through a process of forgiving a lot of people, but I put in there about my 10th grade science teacher. I don't know if you had a chance. Did you read that story?
The one who talked about Mr. Garrett,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, having his opinion dropping of him. Yeah. And so that's the kind of thing of looking at, well, I could be this magnificent child of God, this man of God making a difference, except for that teacher said that he was disappointed in a friend of mine for being my friend.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
any
story
of those
became
stories that keep you from being at a 10, it's like, you know, that was a reflection of some things that were going on at that time, but not who you really are.
right. And it's somewhat metaphorical of um, did you read the story about the shoes? The
Black-footed
feet,
Chucky.
the black-footed, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the, there's a theme that wove in my life of um, like not being able to measure up to my brother. And like with that, the picture, I don't know if I mentioned this in that story, but we went to my mom's funeral. Did I say anything about that?
That there was that a picture came up and someone asked you about it.
Yeah. Well, in that picture, my brother looks like he's um, like, or any picture we took for that matter, he was looked like he came out of a child's um, magazine. I mean, 2 hours later, after being at church, he's perfectly dressed, and my shirt's hanging out, hair unkempt. Um, it, it's interesting because it's got a two-sided piece to it, and but the side that sometimes that I experience is the what I call the little Chucky. It was a lot of moments. Well, like Susan making that comment, and she doesn't. That story was funny. I mean, that's been told like I don't know, thousands. I'm not exaggerating. Thousands of times I've heard that story. We'll go to the church where I grew up in that church, and there'll be 3 or 4 people that will make mention of it. And, you know, anytime I'm around the Sullivans, and that's the gal that was standing, they always bring it up. And, but there's a delightful side of that. I'm a delightful person. And I turn that around. By the end of it, I'm holding my feet up in the air. Um, and so I want to honor uh, both parts of me, and I want to focus on um, being a person that follows through, um, that is responsible more often, and um, stepping into my abundance, I think, is going to take that. But I don't want to lose Chucky because it's a delightful part of me.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of round that off where I don't want to lose lose me.
Right. Well, and recognizing that Chucky is not bad or irresponsible or not good enough. It's not a matter of, okay, well, I need to hold on to a belief that I'm not good enough in order to maintain this delightful, playful kid. Um, Close your eyes, take a deep breath. And just talking about these stories, allow yourself to be aware of what's going on inside and say, I don't measure up.
I don't measure up.
And let that rattle around. And on a scale of 0 to 10, how true does that feel?
I'm going to say a 4.
Okay. And again, with your eyes closed, change slightly. I don't have it right here in front of me. but I think you said your brother's name is Jim, right? Say, I don't measure up to Jim.
That hit a nerve. This one wanes and flows, but right now, I mean, it just slapped me with a one. I just, anyway, no judgment.
Just, yeah, exactly. Just acknowledge it. Okay. Even though I don't measure up to Jim.
I don't know why this hit me, but it did. Um, Even though I don't measure up to Jim,
I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
I choose to love and accept myself and him anyway.
Even though I'm afraid I don't measure up to Jim.
Even though I'm afraid that I don't measure up to Jim,
I choose to love and honor myself.
I choose to love and honor myself.
Even though I'm afraid I don't measure up to Jim.
Even though I'm afraid I don't measure up to Jim.
And there's all this photographic evidence.
And there all of this photographic evidence.
In all the pictures of the two of us.
And all the pictures of the two of us.
He's put together.
He's put together.
And I'm a mess.
I'm a mess.
And anybody can look at those pictures.
And if anybody can look at those pictures,
they can see that I don't measure up.
They can see that I don't measure up.
And even though I'm afraid I don't measure up to Jim.
And even though I'm afraid I don't measure up to Jim,
I choose to deeply and completely.
I choose to deeply and completely
love, honor, and accept myself.
Love, honor, and accept myself.
And Jim.
And Jim.
And maybe even my parents.
And maybe even my parents.
And anybody else who contributed to this comparison.
And anybody else that contributed to this comparison.
All this fear that I don't measure up to Jim.
All of this fear that I don't measure up to Jim.
Side of the eye. All this belief that I don't measure up to Jim.
So if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I could add, we had quite an enmeshed family.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing sexual, although my mom's relationship to my brother was had a sexual appeal to it. My mom was just gaga in love with him, and it looked very unnatural. You know, from when I was young, I was told about it, but when I was old, I saw it, and my dad. Well, and then I just would add my sister was like Cinderella. She just, you know, my mom was not very nice many times to my sister, so it was, you know, a pecking order, if you will. And my dad and my stepmom, you know, they definitely favored him over me. And so anyway, and my grandfather as well. I don't know if I noticed my grandmother did it or not, but definitely both my parents and my grandfather, you know, it was, you know, pronounced. I guess, to be honest, it was pronounced. So, you know, that on a psychological level contributed to this whole sense that, you know, I didn't measure up.
All this belief that I don't measure up.
All of this belief that I don't measure up.
All this evidence that I don't measure up.
All of this evidence that I don't measure up.
Everyone in my family felt that I didn't measure up.
Everyone in my family felt that I didn't measure up.
They basically told me I was less than him.
They basically told me that I was less than him.
And given that that's what they told me,
And given that's what they told me,
how was I supposed to be anything more than that?
how was I supposed to be anything more than that?
They weren't recognizing who I was.
They weren't recognizing who I was.
They were defining me.
They were defining me.
They were putting me in a box
They were putting me in a box
and then judging me for being in that box.
and judging me for being in that box.
And as I allow myself to see that,
And as I allow myself to see that,
I can see that it doesn't make any sense.
I can see that it doesn't make any sense.
And they were doing the best they could.
Can I add one other thing just to,
Absolutely.
um, so, I mean, I love my brother and my parents, nothing, but I loved my brother intensely. And there was this part of me that wanted to be just like him, but there was more of me that didn't want to be anything like him. And
Amen.
and so I embraced the part of the Chucky that's endearing and loving and funny and convinced myself in some ways that I was better than him. It was a competition to not be like him. And so there are some qualities that I wouldn't want to be like that my brother or like, but I've missed out and it hasn't served me well that I didn't want to, because my brother he's a powerhouse, man. I'm telling you, he gets things done. And I almost celebrated not getting things done. I think it was a way of kind of protecting myself, but it was a way where I differentiated myself from him because he didn't spend any time with his family. And, um, there was a lot of things about giving that much to his passion in life that he lost out on. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. But some of it was an excuse that I didn't want to be like that. Some of it was an excuse to not be, I'm thinking of the word producer, but that's not being, getting things done. And the ADD contributed to that, but I think I poured gas on it like nobody's business. Not did. I'll say in the past I did that. We'll just say that.
Yeah. It felt safer to not be like him.
It felt safer to not be like him.
And I found all kinds of ways to not be like him.
I found all kind of ways to not be like him.
In some ways that worked for me.
In some ways that worked for me.
In other ways, not so much.
In other ways, not so much.
But it felt safer to not be like him.
But it felt safer to not be like him.
And sometimes I sabotaged myself.
And sometimes I sabotaged myself.
To set myself apart.
To set myself apart.
To preserve Chucky.
To preserve Chucky.
So what part of me says?
So what part of me says?
Chucky can't be a powerhouse.
Chucky can't be a powerhouse.
Because Jim is no more connected to source than I am.
Because Jim is no more connected to source than I am.
I even quoted Philippians in my form.
I even quoted Philippians in my form.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Jesus Christ who strengthens me.
But not as much as Jim.
But not as much as Jim.
Part of me has been saying that.
Part of me has been saying that.
But as I say it out loud right now,
as I say it out loud right now,
I realize that's crap.
I realize that's correct.
My parents showed a preference for Jim.
My parents showed a preference for Jim.
At least that's how I perceived it.
At least that's how I perceived it.
And so part of me might believe.
Say that again.
And so part of me might believe.
So part of me might believe
that God has a preference for Jim.
That's interesting. That God has a preference for Jim.
And I choose to clear any belief around that.
So let me tell you where it went in a different direction. My brother has found his relationship with God right now, but he was so busy that I actually thought the other thing. I became closer to God. Wow, this is crazy. And some of the motivation was that I was more righteous than him. So it was just the opposite of what you just said. I, like I was going to go into the ministry and, you know, I mean, I think about part of the reason why I spend time with particularly my kids, my grandkids, is the tie to my identity. Not that I'm not going to dismiss that they were wonderful things. I love the hell out of my kids and my grandson, but as I look at it, some of it was had mixed emotions. It wasn't a purely godly thing. I would do things with my kids, and little Jack Corner sat in the corner and look what a good boy am I, and thought that I was superior to him. It was my way because everybody else thought, not everybody, but a lot of people thought more highly of him, it appeared, because his attractiveness was more attractive. And so I said, well, look at this. And I've never put it in this like this succinctly, but there's some truth to that.
And I'm allowing myself more clarity now.
I'm allowing myself more clarity now.
So I can release what doesn't serve me.
So I can release what doesn't serve me.
Whenever we think we're more righteous than someone else,
whenever we think we're more righteous than someone else,
it's kind of a righteousness fail.
It's kind of a righteousness fail.
And I'm processing this.
And I'm processing this.
And I love and appreciate those parts of me.
And I love and appreciate those parts of me
that felt a need to build myself up.
That felt a need to build myself up.
To find a way to feel more superior.
To find a way to feel more superior.
To compensate for where I felt I was lacking.
To compensate for those areas in which I felt lacking.
If Jim's going to be better in some areas,
Jim is going to be superior in some areas.
I'm going to make up for that with my faith.
I'm going to make up for that with my faith.
And I love and appreciate those parts of me.
And I love and appreciate those parts of me.
That tried to love God more.
That tried to love God more.
If it wasn't always the most loving intention.
It wasn't always the most loving intention.
And I was doing the best I could at the time.
And I was doing the best I could at the time.
All these doubts about measuring up.
All of these. It's interesting that God used me in significant ways, especially back then. I mean, even now, He still can use you in your warped ways. Say that one again.
All these remaining doubts that I don't measure up.
These remaining doubts that I don't measure up.
All these fears that I don't measure up.
All of these fears that I don't measure up.
I'm not less than Jim.
I'm not less than Jim.
And I'm not more than Jim in other ways.
More than Jim in other ways.
I'm just different.
Just different.
In God's infinite wisdom,
God's infinite wisdom,
he makes us all different.
I knew you were going to say that. He makes us all different.
It would be very boring if we were all exactly one right way.
It would be very boring if we were all exactly one way.
If God had made all of us quarterbacks,
God had made us all of us quarterbacks.
that wouldn't make for a very interesting game.
That would make for a very interesting game.
I can celebrate differences.
I can celebrate differences.
Without putting one person over another.
Without putting one person over another.
I don't need to put myself over Jim.
I don't need to put myself over Jim.
I don't need to put myself under Jim.
I don't need to put myself under Jim.
And I forgive myself for having done so in the past.
And I forgive myself for having done so in the past.
It's what I was taught to do.
That's what I was taught to do.
By people who didn't know any better.
I tell you, I went to a counselor when I was having troubles with my marriage, and the counselor, we talked about my mom is fairly narcissistic, was, she's not alive, but, and my counselor led me to a book on narcissism, and I was telling my mom, and she says, that sounds very interesting. So I sent her a copy, hoping, I had some revelations about my own narcissism in it, hoping that she might find the same revelations in her own life. And I called her, a few weeks later, and I said, have you read any of the book? And she said, yeah. I said, the first thing I started thinking about was my two sisters and how narcissistic they were. I'm like, anyway, I thought that was funny.
We protect ourselves, and we,
yeah. Yeah, that's true. You made a comment. I mean, you said it a lot, but it really, the whole idea that everybody's, and I've heard this a lot. I've done some work in NLP and, scripturally, and even in EFT, just the notion that people are trying their best. And I want that phrase to resonate in my brain, a lot, just to realize everybody, just doesn't give us a King's X where we get away with everything, but it helps us understand.
There are consequences, but it's allowing ourselves to be compassionate with ourselves, recognizing if we were to open our brains and look at the neural pathways, and we could look at every choice that we've ever made, and if we follow back from that through all of the experiences and all the messages we'd gotten, we'd come to that point and go, oh, I totally see why I did that. At that point, it wasn't like I can make the good choice or I can make the bad choice. Yeah, I think I'll make the bad choice. Never. We never make the worst choice from a place of freedom. It's at that moment, that's the choice that makes the most sense to our ego, based on our programming, based on our circumstances. And so it's being compassionate with ourselves, and same for other people. And it's not saying it's okay. It's not saying, oh, well, in that case, it was a good decision. It was the best decision. No, it's just that's what it was. So how do I now set myself up such that in that same situation now, I wouldn't even consider the other choice? set myself free to make different choices now. And I can't get myself free to make better choices now if I'm beating myself up for the choices I made in the past. It's also very hard to do that if I'm caught up in blaming other people for the choices they made in the past. It's like looking at any situation with the way your parents were treating your siblings compared to how they were treating you, and not defining yourself by that. Just going, okay, I wonder what was going on for them at that moment. Jim did something that he that looked responsible, and they thought, well, this reflects better on us than what Chucky's doing. And
The
so
interesting, the interesting thing is he was doing all sorts of things behind their back.
abs- absolutely.
He wanted to. Uh, I think he didn't know till later on. People started telling him about it. I mean, how favored he was and how weird it was. But you know, streaking naked during the street thing when he was in college. He was a teacher at the time. We went to the store and he stole a candy bar. Like, what the F are you doing?
It's a lot of pressure to be the golden child.
It, I didn't, until that moment, I didn't understand that. That's when I realized that isn't necessarily a gift. I mean, it has both sides to it. It did give him some favor in his life, and but um,
There may have been
when
times he envied you.
no doubt, yeah, we went camping one time, and he I'd been begging him for years to go camping, and in the middle of the camping, he said, "Bro, this is the most relaxed I've ever been. I think maybe in decades." And you know, didn't help me get him to go fishing with me anymore, but it was cool for him to acknowledge that. Not for me, for him. He's so busy, and anyway,
Yep.
that's just really good for me to.
Take a deep breath. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. And say, I don't measure up to Jim.
I don't measure up to Jim.
Seems to be less of a gut punch.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was getting the numbers backwards. I would say right now it's probably at a 3.
Yeah. Whereas it was 9 before. Good. That'll give you a little more freedom.
Yeah, that's awesome. It also gives me a lot of compassion for him.
Yeah.
I didn't anticipate that happening.
Well, it's very hard. The compassion has always been there, just like, David. All of that stuff is in there, but it's covered up with resentment that you may not, acknowledge, and fear and doubt and all kinds of other stuff. And as you let go of that stuff and go, I don't need to hang on to that, and then that compassion is there, and it just gives you that much more freedom to acknowledge the child of God that you are, and see the child of God that He is, and in different ways help him see that, because he's got a lot of confusing messages about who he is, and all the pressures about how to perform. You look at, as you said, all the ways he was, so-called winning, but it was taking him away from family, and the things that he was missing out on because he had all these beliefs about who he needed to be in order to keep getting the kudos, and in order to keep justifying who he was, allowing himself to have the occasional moments of mischief in order to, preserve his sanity or whatever it was. But otherwise, it's like, having to value this kind of success over peace. And just that you had that, offered him that gift of being able to go out and for him to relax and go, oh, there's another way. And that's really what you're doing in terms of your overall ministry, is showing people there's another way.
Yeah. I one of my gifts, my grandfather was, um, well loved by all of us. And, um, I had made a commitment to be like him. And so I asked myself the question, what what's like the unique characteristic? I mean, spending time with some people is cool, but I said, what is it that's so unique about him? And it pops into my head. He was present. And I have worked hard. Well, with my grandson, I only have one. That's an advantage. But uh, when I'm with him, I'm all in. I don't. I don't have. I don't get on the computer. Uh, we get in the car and we talk all the way. We'll go to the amusement park, and we'll talk the whole way there, just about everything and nothing. And I just value um, that gift in me. That
Yeah.
I have cultivated that with him. And
How old is
he's
he?
he's 13, so he's got to an age where I don't get to spend as much time with him, but we just have a very close bond.
Who's which of your children does he belong to?
Brooke got pregnant when she was 17
Ah,
and had him, I think, yeah, when she was 17.
okay. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. And imagine you're looking in a full-length mirror, looking at that man of God, your ideal image of yourself, the person you most want to show up as in the world, present to people, making a difference, strong, confident, healthy. And notice on a scale of 0 to 10 how true that feels right now, how much you are that person right now. Not judging yourself if it's not a 10, but looking at where is it, why not, and what could you do? What actions could you take this week to be more of that person? In terms of your career, in terms of your health, in terms of your your confidence, whatever it might be. What are actions that you could take, and see yourself taking those actions? Notice where there might be resistance. Let me know what's going on in there.
Did you say, let me know what's going on? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Yep.
Well, you were doing really good, and I almost said a 10, and then you started talking more and gave real specific examples, and then I dropped, I would say, a good 6, because the time when I thought I was a 10, um, I was reflecting on magic moments in my life and some of the stuff that I wrote in my deal about, you know, successes, encounters.
Yep.
I was seeing that too. But you hit right at the heart um, and I want to say this, that of areas that I'm going to be working on this week. And uh, both my health and my productivity, if you will, I'll just be a little bit more generic with that. And like I should have been done with my place Um, I shouldn't should on myself, should
Yep.
I?
Don't shit on you.
Um,
just
so
just look at what you need to do and ask yourself, why am I not doing that?
yes, yeah, be curious.
Yeah.
Um, well, that's one of the things I've had some success this week is being curious. I wonder why. Um, I wonder why this and that when it happens. I wonder why, and I've asked that question um, a number of times, and it was productive. And I actually used tapping a number of times, um, and I could have done it more, and want to commit to doing more in the future when resistance comes up. But um, on met last Monday, and I on Tuesday I had some resistance around getting my place cleaned up, and and so uh, man, I just tapped and I went on a tear that day, and so with the health related things, there's some things that I've committed to that I came up with excuses to postpone,
Mhm.
kind of, making a commitment to that. And so I'm just noticing that. And um,
Did you download the habit tracker?
uh, was that part of that whole thing that you sent me? I read through it a little bit, but it was a fast read through.
Yeah, I'll make sure. I'll make sure it's. I'll send you one.
Okay, I
It's I think
appreciate
it's
it.
down there. But it's a great way of just looking at what are those daily habits. I have one posted in my bathroom, and every day I check off tap,
Oh,
exercise, visualize, meditate, all of those things that will help me be who I want to be, and checking them off on a daily basis.
I like that.
Not as a way of shame, but it's like, so if I notice that I'm missing some days, it's like, what's going on here? Where's the resistance?
Oh, I will say you just used the word shame, and you asked me to rate myself. What was the rating that we? I don't know what was that we just did. Um,
Rating yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 as to how much you see yourself as that ideal image of yourself.
I'm going to have a significant breakthrough this week in that, um, because, or I have, I will say I have, because I feel that my shame has, if it had a scale of 1 to 10 that kind of is there, I think it fluctuates, but it's a very low right now.
Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just thinking in terms of who you choose to be and who you have been thus far. Those places, absolutely acknowledging all of the places where you've succeeded, but looking at those places that don't feel like successes. And in terms of health, in terms of productivity, in terms of whatever it might be, and just following your breath through your body, just allow yourself to be aware on a scale of 0 to 10 how much shame is in there.
Maybe a 3 or a 4,
Even though I'm holding on to some shame,
even though I'm holding on to some shame.
I choose to love and accept myself.
I choose to love, honor, and accept myself.
Even though I'm holding on to some shame.
Um, can real quick, I meant to ask this earlier. Can I go get some water real quick?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
let's come back to the shame, but I want to say one thing. I kind of had an idea of where I wanted the session to go. I was going to even say, I want to work on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I, it's like, I wanted to work on productivity, like I'm going to do this and do that and stuff like that. But it's the resistance that is, it isn't because I don't want to do it. It's because I'm resisting it. So that's the one thing about EFT that I think is so powerful is it doesn't avoid the negative. It goes right into the weeds. And
Yeah, we got to look at what if we're trying to run down the track and we don't recognize that we're tied to a box full of bricks behind us, and it's like, why do I resist running down the track? Well, I
yeah,
don't want to look, but I don't want to look behind me and look at that trunk.
yeah, if you're running a 100-yard dash and you have the hurdles in your lane and nobody else does, I think it's
Yeah.
very
And we want to ignore that. As we clear that, you naturally are running down. Yeah, it's always the scale between resistance and motivation. If we're not taking action, it's because the resistance is outweighing the motivation, or the why not is outweighing the why. The will not is outweighing the will. I have willpower, but I have won't power,
yeah.
and that's all we're doing ultimately is we're just clearing out the won't power, all of that stuff that weighs us down and holds us back, because who we are naturally underneath all of that is this masterpiece, this child of God that wants to be of service, that wants to do the best we can do. And as we chip away what doesn't belong, the feeling of I don't measure up to my brother, or the shame, or whatever that stuff is, the productivity is a natural byproduct, because without being weighed down by this, I naturally move forward. Make sense?
100%. Yeah.
All this remaining shame,
All of this remaining shame.
all this remaining shame,
All this remaining shame.
all this belief that I need the shame,
All of this belief that I need the shame.
because we've all been taught
Because we've all been taught
that shame is a great motivator.
that shame is a great motivator.
Adults tried to shame me
Adults tried to shame me
in order to get me to make changes.
in order to get me to make changes.
Parents and teachers
Parents and teachers
said shaming things,
said shaming things,
hoping that would make me improve.
hoping that that would make me improve.
It's kind of insane,
It's kind of insane,
but almost everybody does it.
but almost everybody does it.
So it's not surprising
So it's not surprising
that part of me hangs on to that shame.
that part of me hangs onto that shame.
All this fear that if I don't feel some shame,
All of this fear that I don't feel some shame,
I won't bother to make any improvements.
I won't bother to make any improvements.
If I don't feel shame about my health,
If I don't feel shame about my health,
I won't bother to get in better shape.
I won't bother to get in better shape.
Who taught me that?
Who taught me that?
When I'm watching the Nuggets play
When I'm watching the Nuggets play
and I see some people making brilliant plays,
and I see people making brilliant plays,
do I say to myself,
do I say to myself,
man, they must have had a lot of shame
they must have had a lot of shame
to motivate them to be that good?
to motivate them to be that good?
And some of them may have used shame,
Some of them may have used shame.
but there are much better ways to be motivated.
There are much better ways to be motivated.
I choose to serve God.
I choose to serve God.
I don't need shame to motivate me to do that.
I almost said this to you earlier, but is this shame because I thought this, like in some ways, when we don't step up, well, I'll let you speak to it. We let God down a little bit. I think that, and I think it is shame. I'll just go ahead and say it.
Yeah. So it's this idea that shame will make us better servants of God, and allowing ourselves to let go of that.
Yes.
Because if you're trying to run down the track and you're dragging behind you a trunk filled with bricks, is shame going to make you run faster? It's not. You're not running. You're not slowed down because of a lack of shame. You're slowed down because of old baggage and misunderstandings. How that stuff got, how those bricks got in that trunk, who knows? You know, sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. But the thing is, I'm emptying that trunk out, not out of a sense of shame, but because God wants me to move down the track. But being ashamed of the, it's like, well, I've got all these bricks in my trunk, but at least I feel ashamed of that. That doesn't make me run any faster.
Yeah. When Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan," he wasn't trying to shame Peter. He's trying to shake him up. It's like what you're thinking right now is not productive to the kingdom. Stop thinking that. Wasn't it wasn't to shame him, I don't think.
When he spoke to the wayward woman, he didn't say, "Go forth and sin no more," but feel a lot of shame and guilt about what you've done.
Take some baggage with you.
Jesus never taught us to feel ashamed.
Yeah.
There's nothing in scripture, at least that I've come across, where Jesus encourages shame or guilt. Go forth and sin no more. End of story. And Jesus recognized that what caused the sin was, you could call it demons, it's misunderstandings, old beliefs. And it's like, okay, Jesus would cast those out. Let me remove from you what causes you to sin. The word sin just meaning to miss the mark. What causes me to miss the mark?
Turn away from God is all it is.
And not because we're bad people, but because there's some misunderstanding that would cause us to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Releasing the remaining shame.
Releasing the remaining shame.
God has no interest in me feeling shame.
God has no interest in me feeling shame.
My shame cannot serve God or anyone else.
My shame cannot serve God or anybody else.
I forgive myself for having held on to it.
I forgive myself for having held on to it.
For having held on to it.
Having held on to it.
And I'm setting myself free from that.
And I'm setting myself free from it.
In body, mind, and spirit.
In body, mind, and spirit.
Take a deep breath. Feel like you've let some of that go?
Yeah, without a doubt. That was good.
Excellent. All right, you got time for a guided imagery?
Absolutely.
Then please get yourself comfortable. Close your eyes.
This is a good chair to get comfortable in.
Well manifested then.
Yes.
Yeah, get yourself comfortable, close your eyes, take a deep breath in and hold it. And let it go. Another deep breath in and hold it. And let it go. A third deep breath in and hold it. And let it go. Now just breathing comfortably with your eyes closed. Breathing comfortably, and just imagine that with each breath you take in, you breathe in relaxation and positive energy. Go ahead and imagine a healing light of whatever color you like surrounding your body, so that with each breath you take in, your lungs comfortably draw in that healing light, allowing it to flow through every muscle, nerve, fiber, tissue, cell, and atom of your body. Imagine a healing shower flowing down, crystal clear water that's a perfect temperature as it flows over the top of your head, soothing and relaxing your scalp, washing away fear, doubt, anxiety, washing away anger, sadness, guilt, shame, washing away pain, frustration, disappointment, embarrassment, washing these away to reveal the light that you truly are. This unique expression of divine light and love, allowing more and more of that light to be revealed as that healing shower flows over your forehead, relaxing the muscles in your face, flowing down over the back of your head, your neck, your shoulders, washing away tension, leaving your shoulders calm, comfortable, and relaxed. That healing shower flowing down your arms, all the way down over your fingertips, down over your chest and your stomach, soothing and relaxing, healing and cleansing, allowing yourself to remain comfortably in whatever position you choose. Allow that healing shower to flow down over your upper and lower back. And as your torso relaxes, your internal organs comfortably do whatever they need to do to achieve and maintain your optimal level of health and well-being in body, mind, and spirit. As that healing shower continues down over your body, down over your hips and your thighs, over your knees, down your lower legs, through your ankles, into your feet. And finally, that relaxation flows over your toes as you allow yourself to relax twice as much, going at least twice as deep with each number as I count backwards: 5, drifting down to 4, floating down to 3, 2, 1, and 0 is deep sleep. Remembering again that each and every time you hear me say the words deep sleep, with your permission and only with your permission, you allow yourself to return to this depth or even deeper, 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 quickly, soundly, deeply. And the physical body relaxes, and with that relaxation comes a wonderful sense of calm well-being of body and mind. Deeper, deeper. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 is deep sleep. And in this calm, comfortable state of mind and body, go ahead and imagine yourself in some really beautiful place. Some place where you allow yourself to be present to the beauty, the magnificence, the abundance of creation. Looking around at the world and just asking yourself who you choose to be for the world. And allowing yourself to be aware of those things that you can do. Allowing yourself to get clear about what productivity means for you. What are those things that you want to do in order to be who you choose to be and make the difference you choose to make in the world? See yourself taking those actions that are of service to you and to others. And allow yourself to notice that there's a full-length mirror there, and look in that mirror and see that version of you that takes those actions, that is productive, not in a way that you should be, but a way that you just naturally are, because this is who you are. This is God working through you to make a positive difference for you and others. And whatever might slow you down, whatever fears and doubts, whatever old beliefs about who you are and who you're not, just allowing those misunderstandings to melt away and allow yourself to feel more and more that you truly are this magnificent child of God, such that it feels easy to do those things that benefit you and others. Doing the writing, doing the producing, doing all of these things that allow you to make a bigger difference for yourself and others. Just allowing yourself to know that's who you really are, and allowing yourself to be that. Allowing yourself to have more and more faith in yourself as we go even deeper now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 is deep sleep. In a moment, I'll count you back out from 0 up to 5. 5 will be wide awake, alert, focused, and energetic, feeling much better than before, feeling much more confident in yourself, feeling much greater freedom to do those things that you feel are important, and loving yourself in the process. Tonight, when you choose to go to sleep, don't be surprised when you fall asleep quickly, soundly, deeply, and sleep very well through the night. During the night, you'll dream. The more you dream, the stronger you become. I'm going to ask your unconscious mind to allow at least one of your dreams to be a very healing dream, continuing this healing process in body, mind, and spirit, so that in the morning, at the time you've chosen to wake up, you wake up easily, feeling refreshed, energetic, and ready to start the day again, powerfully moving forward into an ever more joyful experience of an ever greater abundance of health, wealth, happiness, and love, which are your birthright and which benefit others. Now go back down to 0, which is always deep sleep, allowing your mind, body, and spirit to digest all these positive thoughts and images, taking them in at a very deep level so that these positive changes occur easily, effortlessly, and naturally. Coming up to 1, feeling physically relaxed. 2, feeling emotionally calm and confident. 3, health and well-being, enthusiasm, love, joy, and gratitude flowing through every muscle, nerve, fiber, tissue, cell, and atom of your body. 4, becoming more and more alert and aware of your surroundings. And 5 is eyes open, wide awake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eyes open, wide, wide awake, and welcome back.
I thought of that picture to behind you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see it as good right. Let's see if I can make you. There you go.
This one here?
Yeah, yeah. That's Michelangelo did that as well, right?
Michelangelo's
Yeah.
David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just that you were talking about, all the excess, shame and stuff like that. That's what, you know, inside me is already the Michelangelo, and God is, chipping away. It's not me.
Yep.
Um,
Releasing what is
that,
not you to reveal the
yeah,
masterpiece inside.
yeah.
Yep. And God definitely has a masterpiece in there. And like you said, as you said about writing the stuff down and talking about the successes, it's like, yeah, those are the times that I've allowed myself glimpses of who I really am, and then clearing the belief that you are anything other than that. Those are misunderstandings.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will send you the link to download the session in a few minutes. And we'll
Okay, very good.
at the next one
And
scheduled.
am I able to schedule more than,
You can schedule as many as you like ahead of time.
okay.
Yep.
And that is at where again?
I'll send you in the email with the link to download the session. I'll have the scheduling link in there as well.
Last thing, probably because of resistance, I didn't get started with that class that you're doing. Is it still open where I can jump in on it, or?
Oh, the 5-day challenge last week?
Oh, that was a 5-day challenge. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there
But
a
I'll
link?
but I'll give you the access to the recordings of that.
Good, good. Okay. I'd love to do that.
Yep. All right, sir. You have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thank
All
you
right,
so
take
much.
care.